Cosmic here. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to do all of our unboxings for Shadowverse Evolve. So happy launch day, and yes, we are going to go through each of these starter decks, so all 6 videos will be on the channel at the same time. And I did want to just start with number 1 and, well, go in order. So we're just going to do an unboxing, kind of first impressions on, what's in the box, and also at the end of each one of these videos, you will find a meta deck to use, because again, we do have an idea of where some of these decks are going and what's going to be the best builds, or at least expected best builds for the format. So yes, of course, enjoy the unboxing if that's what you care about, but otherwise jump to the end of the video and I'll have some additional commentary about the deck list itself, or just have a visual at the end. So without further ado, let's get into it, starting with Regal Fairy Princess, the Forestcraft. So if you are somebody who loves a lot of combo plays and do big brain activities round after round after round, this is going to be the starter deck for you. And I really want to, and I probably won't say this in every video, so I guess I'll just give it for this one. This is got to be one of the nicest starter decks that I've unboxed in a very long time. I want to give a huge shout out to Psy Games for putting this all together. Of course, you have the full list on the back in which ones are exclusive. So the one thing I'll note here is that you've probably have seen that the prices on these can be $20 to $25, but you only need to buy one. So yes, it does seem like it's pretty expensive at first, but one, I mean, they just put a lot of love into these boxes. Like, they did quite a good job on everything that you get. And then also, you only need to buy one. So that $20 to $25 price tag instead of like the normal $30 and whatnot is pretty nice. So of course, we have the deck. We'll get in that in a minute. And in each one of these, you'll have a life counter. You'll have some tokens in the back that go over like Bane, Aura, right? All the different effects you can have, the tokens themselves. And as you remember, if I talked about this very early on, the one thing I gotta say that I'm not the biggest fan about the game is you have the damage tokens, you have the ability tokens, you have the plus or minus life on the tokens as well. Like, there are a lot of tokens that you can use in this game, but at the same time, you could just play something like Runecraft, which doesn't care about it. So if that bothers you, where there's too many tokens, like, I've got accustomed to it now, right? I'm playing other card games where there's a lot of tokens as well. But if that's something that bothers you, there are other classes that can avoid it. So there is still a way to get into the game. So again, like, this is just overall really heavy duty structuring, which is something that caught me off guard. So we're just gonna open it up here and kind of go through the cards themselves. If I can get this off, there we go. And I'm not gonna use my life counter, so I'm just gonna put those to the side. So in the back, you'll notice that these are noticeably, I'm not sure how well it's gonna come up the camera, right? These are noticeably thicker. So in the back of every deck, you will have your tokens. So these are going to be needed to play. Wow, they give you a lot of, I mean, that makes sense. They give you a lot of fairy tokens. You're going to need a lot of these. But these are also available in the booster set. So if you lose these, there will always be more available, sort of thing. So in the back, kind of just rounding out the other things. So we have our Evolve point, which actually these do look a lot better without the text. So there was a notification that went out on the main website that they are missing the Evo points. So, or it's missing the name, excuse me, from the Evo points. And honestly, it looks better without it. If you played Shadowverse, you know what this is. If you haven't played Shadowverse, long story short, you have a Evo deck, and this counts towards one of the play points, and they might only cost one. So it lets you evolve for free if you go second and get these. And it's just a nice resource thing that they put into the game. And then, of course, the Evolve deck is basically like a side deck that has extra effects for it. And I won't get that too much into the video, but just good to know. And then the last thing is obviously a leader. Leaders are mandatory to play the game. And each starter deck does have the leader for that one. So you'll notice that you've probably seen them popping online. If you want the foil version of this that has extra emotes and extra, flair to it, it has like gold stamping and all that stuff, you want to get the premium version. So again, cool thing to flex, but obviously absolutely not mandatory. It's something to keep in mind. So up first, we do have Arya, Fairy Princess, which is just going to be your fairy spammer, which goes very well with Rose Queen from the main set. So very good card itself, obviously gorgeous artwork. And again, as we mentioned, we do get 3 per starter deck. And I don't think it's going to come through. I meant to check this before. No, it's kind of harder to tell. But there's also like a slightly different foiling, it seems like, that they use for the starter decks only. And this is something I was trying to get out of. Nope, probably not going to come through. So it's more like the flat foiling for main set, where this has like a rainbow band across it. That's probably not the best way to describe it. When you see it in person, you'll get a better idea of it. So definitely keep that in mind. Moving on from there, we have Tatiana's Sanctuary. We'll let that get in scope for a minute. There we go. Great way to buff up your pixies. So again, 3 of that. We then have Rose Gardener, which is one of the Evo cards that we'll talk about once we get to the Evo deck. So 3/3 for 3 with an Evolve, pay 1. We have Waltzing Fairy. So this lets you put a fairy token into your EX area, which is basically like a second hand. It's like a second resource area that you can play cards from, which is very important for Forestcraft because you want to build into combo, which we'll talk about maybe in a later video or maybe towards the end. Then we have the Fairy Caster, summon 3 fairy tokens. So again, this lets you just have more of these fairy tokens, which we talked about at the very beginning, right? So it's these, the 1/1 for 1, that help you build into combo points. So that's a very, very strong thing that you'll look forward to when playing this archetype. And then we have getting to more of the more standard stuff. That's it. You can find the main set. So Elf Metallurgist, right? So 2 copies of that. Okami, also in the main set. We got 2 copies of that. Trent, there we go. Evolve, and that's where you can see the combo 3. So if you've played at least 3 cards this turn, including this one, perform combo 3. So it's a condition you have to activate to get that effect so you can evolve it for free. So again, if you're playing out like fairy for 1, play another fairy for 1, or I guess you only need 2, right? So Fairy Trent will give you combo 3 because you played those fairies even though they came from your EX area. So that is something to keep in mind. So it's a lot of fun. Like I said, if you really love combo style of decks and like planning out your turns, this is absolutely the starter deck that you want to pick up. So Trent being a 3 of, we'll put that down for now. Water Fairy, an absolute classic from Shadowverse, just getting your more fairy tokens into the field. Just another card that we expect to see a lot of, so 3 of that. Elf Wanderer, so this has assails, can attack reserved followers. So that means it can attack standing units, so kind of like a... I was trying to think of an equivalent from another game, and I'm just totally going to blank on it, I guess. But, you know, it gives you an option to have target removal in the deck, which is super important. And then, of course, the staple Fairy Circle, which is something that you're going to expect to see a lot of coming out of the forest set. So we got 2 of those. 2 Woodland Refuge, also from the main set. We have Sylvan Justice as a 3 of, so really important quick time spell. That's going to let you damage something and create a fairy token, which is super important, again, for this whole craft or the whole class. And now we're going to get into the... oops, sorry. There's a goblin here. There's some neutrals here at the very end. So we have our goblin, which we know we've seen from the unboxing videos. We have Angelic Snipe. Just a great staple to have. Obviously very good in Forest, but just a staple forever. And then Angelic Barrage. Okay, now getting into the Evolved deck. So this is, as I had mentioned, it's a 10-card deck that you get to kind of put to the side at the start of the game, and it's, you know, it's like your sideboard that you have in game 1, because you can put a bunch of different followers in your Evolved deck, obviously, if they have an evolved form, which can give you different advantages over the course of the game. So it's like a side deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is what everyone always says, but I've never played Yu-Gi-Oh! So I always just call it a, you know, sideboard as it were. So we have our Rose Gardener. So again, combo 3, that's going to draw you some cards. We have that Trend that we mentioned, so it lets you just Evo into a free 5/5, which is pretty great. Also, wonderful artwork there. We have our Water Fairy, as I mentioned, just the staple if it comes back into focus. There you go. So on Evolve, summon a fairy token, so it helps you go wide, and then put another fairy token in your area. And then, of course, just the standard 1 of Goblin. So that is the starter deck overall. Of course, I'm going to put up an image here as well, just to give you an example to work off of. Now, the disclaimer that I'm going to hopefully add at the end of every single one of these videos is this is by no means the perfect version of this deck. It's meant to just largely be a helpful resource to get you started if you want to start from the starter decks and upgrade into cards from the main set. But ultimately, if you can afford it, the best thing that you can do is find the craft that you want to play, buy a split off someone, which means you pay like $120, for example, at least in the States. You get a playset of every card from that craft, and then it gives you more flexibility as future sets come out, because these sets do build upon one another. Like, for example, Merlin and Forte from Rune and Dragon, respectively, are still used all the way up until set 6. So almost 2 years later in Japan, still being very strong meta-relevant staples. And so with that, and I guess we should put the the starter LG back at front, right? So that is our Regal Fairy Princess starter deck, which is available today at your local game store. If they don't have it in, make sure you ask them about it. But again, we're going to have all 6 starter decks going up, so make sure to check out the other videos. And of course, in the future, we're going to try to do some versus videos, as well as meta discussions and other things to look forward to, but they'll probably just be once a week videos. So with that, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next Shadowverse Evolve video. Cheers.